Okay, so I went ahead and I sewed that, and I went ahead and I trimmed to my beginning and ending threads, so I don't have those. And anywhere where you maybe went outside of that 1/4 inch seam allowance and went a little larger, you want to make sure that you trim that. That's going to be really important when we go ahead and do our French seams. We also want to go ahead before we do our next step and just trim our corners. So where our stitching is there, I'm trying to see what you can see. I'm just going to kind of trim like a little diagonal so it's nice and close to the corner there. But I don't want to trim my stitching, so I'm making sure that I don't cut any of my stitching. And I'm going to do that at each of my corners. Here I'm just going to go right on the outside. I'm not going on my full, like inside my stitching, just on the outside, trimming that nice and close there. And same thing up here on my cuff, trimming it nice and close, but keeping on the outside of my stitching still. Okay, then I'm going to take my pillowcase and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it inside out. And I just want to make sure that I have my seams pulled way out here. And if it helps, I can press that. So I might want to do that here and press those seams so that they are pulled way out. So when I say that I'm pulling my seam way out, that is kind of my stitching here. I'm going to take and I'm pulling it kind of way out, making sure it's right on the very end. And then I'm just going to kind of iron that so that it stays in place right on the very edge. It's as far out as it can be there. That's going to be very important to the French seam. Okay, and now that I have that all pressed so my seam is out on the very edge, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew. And this time, instead of sewing at the 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm going to sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And it's really important that I keep it at the 1/2 inch. And I'm going to sew on that same L shape that I did previously, right along that seam that I just ironed. So again, you should go ahead and trim those beginning and ending threads. And after you do that, you can go ahead and turn your pillowcase back right side out, making sure to push out those corners again. And as you do that, you just want to look at your seams and hopefully you don't see any kind of extra fabric sticking outside of them. It just looks like your finished seam on the outside. Okay, so it should look just like a finished seam on the outside. And if you did a really nice job matching things, your trim strip should be matched up there, your cuff should be matched up. Okay, everything should match up there. And then if we look on the inside, the French seam shows us that we don't have a raw edge here. We have a finished edge on the inside, so we can't see any of our fabric cutting. Okay, and that is what that French seam should look like. Okay, and there you have it, your finished pillowcase, just like that.